So excited to be joined with Senator Elizabeth Warren today as Republicans try to push through their budget bill, their quote unquote big, beautiful bill. Now, Senator, I know you're in the middle of votes. We're in Votorama. What's the state of play right now? What do folks need to know about this bill right now?
They need to know the ball's up in the air, right? We're voting, it's live. I mean, it's happening right now, but the votes are votes on amendments. And then at the end, there'll be a vote on the final bill overall. So, right now, with the amendments, the Democrats are trying to make it better. So, we're putting in amendments to do things like how about we don't cut health care
Hmm.
for millions and millions of people? How about we don't do big tax giveaways for billionaires? How about we don't cut help for clean energy? And how about we don't give away a bunch of money to the oil and gas industry? So we're doing those in a series of votes, and it's Democrats get a vote, then the Republicans get a vote. Democrats get a vote, then the Republicans get a vote. And then at some point, and I don't know when, you don't know when, nobody knows when right now, there will be a moment when we vote on the final version of the bill. The importance of that is it really is still live. It would take all the Democrats are voting no, not a problem. It would take 4 Republicans voting no to kill the bill. We got 2,
Hmm.
pretty much for sure. If we could get those other 2, then we would be there. So now's the time. Making those phone calls, sending those texts, sending emails. Everyone should be in touch with their senators and in touch with their friends to urge them to be in touch with their senators, particularly their friends who live in states that are represented by Republicans.
Well, I got to ask you about those two senators that we're looking at right now. I think Susan Collins in Maine, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. Those are the two that I think personally have the most opportunity to potentially flip and kill the bill. Now, what's the status about both Senator Collins and Senator Murkowski? I know Senator Collins previously said she would vote to proceed, but is not supportive of the final bill. Is that still the case? Are you hearing anything different there?
So understand the Republicans have been meeting to try to buy the votes they need.
Hmm.
And so, for example, they put in a special provision for Alaska, Senator
Hmm.
Murkowski's home state, that was going to help the folks in Alaska get health care coverage. And so they put it in, and then lo and behold, the way they did it, the parliamentarians said, you can't do that
Right.
in a bill like this. So they stripped it back out. So the question is the Republicans are now hustling to try to find another polar payoff so that you can keep the senator from Alaska in, even while people around the rest of the country lose their health care. And I think you're right, but I really want to underscore here take a look at Louisiana.
Mm.
Important to be talking about the senators there. Remember, senator up for reelection in Texas. Want
Mm.
to pay attention there. Uh, you you got to stay and watch in all of these races that have Republicans. Utah, there are a lot of good folks in Utah who are saying, "Wait a minute, I'm I may have views that differ from
Hmm.
the most liberal senators. I get that, but I'm not for cutting health care to little babies. I'm
Right.
I'm not for cutting access to nursing homes for our seniors. So don't write off other places. The phone calls are worth making.
I got to ask you because last time
Sure.
we spoke about a lot of the kind of more not so talked about provisions, but dangerous ones in the bill. And so, a quick rapid fire as to a few provisions, whether they're still in there or not. The AI provision, is it still there? Can states no longer regulate if this bill passes?
Yes, it is still in there. And this one just gags me. Now, Ted Cruz stands up and says, well, it's not so big. It's not, so, but it's in there.
Right. Gun silencers, is that provision
That
still
one's
in
out.
there? That one's out. Okay. Contempt of court provision, where's that?
That one's out.
That one's out. All right, good. So we got those three.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about a lot of folks are a little bit confused about the reconciliation process generally. They're saying, well, Senate parliamentarian throughout the Murkowski kind of backroom deal, does it need 60 votes now, or is 50 votes still kind of the answer now that the Senate parliamentarian's involved? Could you just explain to folks that
Sure.
a little more?
So, as you know, Normally, anything to pass the Senate is subject to the filibuster, which means it takes 60 votes to get it through
Right.
if the Democrats want to object, and we do, except reconciliation. And reconciliation can only be done for budget matters. So the fight with the parliamentarian is the Republicans try to put in non-budget things like gun silencers or contempt of court rules. And the parliamentarian says, you can't do that.
Hmm.
So that's how the bill gets shifted. But as you can imagine, it's a blurry line. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Republicans said, we're going to give it a budget of zero.
Hmm.
The budget cap is zero. Hey, that's budget, said the Republicans. Parliamentarians said, no, guys, you're not fooling me. That's policy. You're trying to get rid of the whole agency. So the Republicans went back and negotiated, and they said, okay, how about if we cut in half the amount of funding available? And the parliamentarians said, okay, now it's budget and not
Hmm.
policy. So I'm going to introduce an amendment, you won't be surprised, that says this little agency that has returned more than $20 billion that people got cheated out of, that this little agency gets its full funding. And that's what I'm going to put everybody on record on to vote on. But that's how the process works.
Okay.
The Republicans need to strip out the things that take 60 votes so that they can pass it at the end with only 50 votes. Because look, they're struggling to get
Right.
50 votes. That's why I said we only need two more. There's no way they're getting to 60 votes.
And I got to ask you, something that not enough people are talking about, in my opinion, is how a lot of these cuts, these provisions, are not taking effect until 2027, right?
Clever.
Conveniently after the November 2026 election. Is that still the case? Are they still kind of being pushed off until after the election?
Oh, you're going to love this. It's even worse than that,
Huh.
Aaron. What happens is the cuts, the fact that people, latest estimates are that it may be as many as 20 million people losing their health care.
Wow.
They shove that out until just after the election, but the billionaire tax cuts, they go into effect immediately. Well, those boys, they need that money. Right. Jeff Bezos has a $50 million wedding
Right.
to pay for, so he needs that tax break right now.
All
And
right.
that's how the bill is set up. If it's for the billionaires, happens right away. If it's imposing the payment, they want to wait until after the election so that, maybe hoping people won't believe it will hit them.
Well, final question for you. As far as timing wise for the vote, I think we're looking at potentially this evening, maybe overnight. Is that what you're still
Yep.
hearing? And if this bill does pass in the Senate, is that it? Is that the end?
No, no, still has to go back over to the House. Now, the House has lots of people, oh, sure, well, this guy can't stand this. And then they all
Right.
cave because that's how it works over in the House. But it does have to go back out to the House as well. Today is the day to call your senators. Tonight is the night to call your senators. Call them again, right? Call them again, call them again. Call your friends and get them to call your red state senators. Now is the time on that. We are in this fight for as long as we can. We are in this fight because the people who are going to lose their health care, they need us in this fight. So we're
Yeah.
staying in it.
And Senator, I know you said last time when we spoke, we're just waiting for that one senator to give us the John McCain moment, the thumbs down moment. So we'll
That's
see if
it.
it happens tonight.
That's it. Chance for history.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Good luck. And we're just going to keep watching. So we'll see what happens. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron.